Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2025 Chevy Silverado. But more specifically, this is a 2500 HD non-diesel truck. So this actually has the famous 6.6-liter gas V8 engine, which is nicknamed the L8T, and it still is connected to the 10-speed Allison automatic transmission. So this powertrain might be the most reliable powertrain of any full-size truck currently offered, not just by Chevrolet, but by any of the automakers. So while this is purposely built as a work truck, there's a lot of interesting things about it that you might be interested if you are considering a truck like this, or if you just like the powertrain of this and you are deciding if this could be, an all-purpose vehicle for you. So today we're going to get into a lot of interesting things in this quick review of the 2025 2500 HD Silverado to help you guys at home decide what do you do with it. And if you get anything out of this video, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the Twin Falls Chevy, one of the best Chevy dealerships in the nation. They sell below MSRP and they ship all over the country, so for that I will link them below. So let's start with the basic rundown of what's powering this 3/4 ton Silverado. First of all, the hood is super high up. I'm 5'11", and the fenders are up to almost my shoulders, so you might need a step stool to look over it. But once you do, you're going to be met by a glorious 6.6-liter overhead valve train pushrod V8. One of my favorite things about this LT-based engine, it's still an iron block, so it should be able to handle a lot of power. Still has aluminum heads like a lot of the other ones of the past, but this one does not have active fuel management. It does not have cylinder deactivation like the 6.2 and the 5.3 found in the regular half-ton trucks. So this is likely going to be an old-school V8 Chevy engine, which, like most other pushrod engines, it's small, it's compact, it physically isn't much bigger than a 4-cylinder engine. So if we look down the driver's side, you can see the valve covers, you can see part of the heads, you can see the headers or the exhaust manifolds, the spark plug wires. This is going to be a really reliable powertrain, and if you want to modify it, the sky's the limit. You could easily do a 3-liter Whipple supercharger, pump the 401 horsepower at 5,200 RPM up to closer to 700. This also has 464 pound-feet of torque at about 4,000 RPM, and those numbers with a Whipple supercharger will also go up to almost 700 RPM. Or if you even just want to do a tune, an intake, get rid of the baffling, make the engine really noticeably loud, sound a lot better, a lot healthier for breathing, and throw on some headers, you could easily do that too. There's so much room to work under the hood, and there are so many options when you have a very reliable non-displacement on demand V8. But also this Allison transmission, from what I can find online, the literature sounds like it's rated for about 600 wheel horsepower. This truck, I'd speculate, probably only puts about maybe 320 of its 400 horsepower to the wheels. So with a turbo or supercharger, you could potentially almost double the power output of this engine without having to worry too much about the transmission, because we do know the 8-speed and 10-speed automatics that are found in the regular half-ton trucks haven't been exactly perfect. But this Allison transmission, while it does shift very much like a diesel, it does still really have a lot of the characteristic and not necessarily seem that set up for performance driving versus towing and hauling. It still is a very good transmission, and I like that a lot about this powertrain. And there are 5 ways to configure your 2500 HD truck between the bed and the body size. This is an 8-foot long bed with the regular cab setup, of course. I personally wish this could be offered in a 6.5-foot bed. Sure, it might feel a little bit less stable and top heavy on the road, but it's going to look really good if you don't often need the 8 feet and you do want to park it a little bit more easily. I'm a little bit disappointed though for this one, MSRPing at about $51,000 before Twin Falls Chevy dropped it down to $45,000. You still have halogen headlights. Sure, they are mounted lower. Hopefully they won't blind drivers, and you could probably replace the bulb with an LED filament that's located in the same exact spot so that you don't mess up the lighting pattern. But for 50 grand, you should have LED headlights in my opinion. You also have tow hooks. You have a basic black plastic bumper, which would be easy to replace if anything happens to it. You have a fake hood vent that says Chevrolet under it. I like that a lot. You also have almost like the Raptor style little black plastic pieces here with the Allison transmission and the 6.6-liter V8. This is just a ginormous vehicle. It is about 7 feet tall. It has about 10.2 inches of ground clearance, a 373 final drive ratio. It does take almost 50 feet to do a full circle, so it's not the most agile thing on its feet, but it does have a payload capacity of 3,600 pounds. So you can really put a lot of stuff in the back of this truck or in the cabin if you can fit it. And then it can tow at least 14,000 pounds, but it's going to vary the tow rating depending on if it's a 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and all the other configuration options that you have available. And then this 8-foot long bed, which is over 90 inches, is also a little bit over 6 feet wide. and it's about 21 inches deep. So overall, you have almost 85 cubic feet of cargo capacity back here before you would even be above it and start blocking off your visibility. And while like most regular cab pickup trucks, I do wish we still had a manually sliding rear window. You at least have really good visibility out of this one and from most corners. It's just when you're inside the vehicle, you are sitting up so high that you can't see on the sides of the vehicle or maybe within 20 feet of the ground because of the angle of vision. Same thing with the back, you probably can't see for 40 feet behind it. But you can see distances really good, and it feels very much like a truck driving, as you'll see in just a second. I honestly like all the black finishes on this vehicle. I think they're going to age well, hold up well. This does have a 36-gallon tank, and because you don't have fender liners as a way that Chevy wanted to save some money, you can really see the huge 36-gallon tank and the leaf springs. This truck does not seem to be rated by the EPA for MPG, but I would speculate it's going to get around 12 to 14 in town, probably 17 to 19 at highway speeds, at low highway speeds like 55 to 65 miles an hour. So overall, you could probably go about 540 miles if you're completely unloaded on a tank of gas. You're also gonna have some black accents for the handle, for the side mirror, and then you have a shark fin antenna up there, as well as a traditional antenna, which is kind of funny that these still have those. But the door panels, they open up large. The vehicle is very high off the ground. It's probably at least 2 feet to get inside there, so you might want some running boards, especially if you're not worried about ground clearance and you don't take this thing off-roading and you use it for work. But that boxed frame looks fantastic, and everything is tucked in really nicely. You have the huge door panel. You don't have the upper storage right here like you do on some other Silverados. I'm gonna turn that off because that's beeping at us. But you have a lot of pockets, very basic speaker. It doesn't sound fantastic. This does have a good amount of road and wind noise just because it is a heavy-duty truck and it's lifted high off the ground. But you have the 8-pillar handle to pull yourself up. You have these mats that you can basically just rinse out with the garden hose if you want to. You can slide and adjust the back bolstering, but you don't have lumbar support or anything like that. And then this cab actually has pretty good room behind the front row for your tire changing tools and any other little goodies that you want to hide, which, speaking of the tire, this has a spare tire underneath the bed, and it's a 245/75/17, so that's about a 31 and a half inch tire by about 9.6 inches wide. And when you hop up here, if you can hop that high, this looks very much like a custom Silverado, like a very basic model. You still have push button start. It roars to life. You have a basic heads-up display for some safety features, adaptive cruise and stuff like that. You have the horn. It's actually pretty loud, pretty high pitch though, but it is loud. This does not have four-wheel drive auto like you get on a half-ton truck because the heavy-duty transfer case, it's all going to be four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, high and low. And then you have the old-school column shifter, which I love. You still have some storage up here, although no plugins. Basic rear view mirror, side mirrors. I do actually wish those had a little bit more vertical height. But overall, this is pretty cool. You still have 6 o'clock handle. And then you just have a few basic options on this one. You have the baby-sized screen. And honestly, with all this dead space, all this plastic and everything, why the heck is the volume knob so minusculely small compared to everything else? I guess the proportions are decent compared to that small screen, but that screen is like puny. So that button is like the size of my finger. But anyways, everything is physical for climate controls, trailer brake, everything that you need. And then you do have the lifting storage, hidden storage, middle seat, which is pretty cool and good visibility throughout. But I'm going to take off the sound cancellation mic so you guys can hear a little bit more as we actually drive this vehicle now. And I think you guys have waited long enough, so we're going to do the 0 to 60 right now, and then we will talk about it. 0 to 60 in the 2025 Chevy Silverado 2500, gas, 6.6 liter, density altitudes almost 5,000 feet, so it is down in power, probably about 15%. I'm in two-wheel drive. We're going to do a little bit of a brake rev, try not to do a burnout, and we're going to see what this can do, 0 to 60. All right, full throttle here. It's very bumpy getting up to speed on this road. And true 0 to 60 came in at 9.17 seconds. Not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting this truck to probably be in like the 7s, maybe 8 seconds flat. So a 9 seconds 0 to 60 is not fast, and I really did expect a little bit faster time out of 464 pound-feet of torque. But also, this is a big, large, heavy-duty truck. It's fighting physics. It doesn't get a brake anywhere. Having a supercharger, having a turbo, even having full bolt-ons and a tune would really probably wake up this powertrain and change the engine dynamics, the tuning, give you a lot more low-end grunt and torque, and that would be fun. Of course, I don't recommend you guys do that. I'm just saying some random thoughts right now. But overall, driving this, honestly, as soon as I got into it the first time, it felt like a heavy-duty old-school truck. It feels like you're living in the 1980s. And then you notice this tiny little screen and you realize, okay, we are in the modern era. But this feels heavy. Having a 3,600 pound payload capacity, having all those leaf springs in the back, mean that this is not there to cushion your ego. This is a heavy duty truck meant for work, meant for hauling, meant for literally having a couple thousand pounds or a ton in the bed while also towing a trailer behind you. This is meant for doing stuff. This isn't meant for creature comforts. This isn't meant for driving around town, getting a gallon of milk and going to the grocery store. This is meant for heavy duty truck stuff. And that transmission, it does ride out gears when you are already moving. But I'm gonna slow down really good here, partially because I wanna show you a low speed acceleration, and partially because I have to with how top heavy this vehicle is. And now I'm gonna lightly get onto the gas and let you guys try to watch the tachometer and listen for the transmission shifting, where this really feels like a diesel shifting every couple hundred RPM. Right there especially, hopefully you guys saw the last 3 or 4 of those. It stopped riding out the gears and it just starts shifting every couple hundred RPM, and this just feels like such a big, heavy truck. I am bouncing around a lot in person. I don't know how it's coming across on camera, and the shakiness in my voice is magnified by all the bumpiness. So I do think this is probably one of those trucks that rides better when it's loaded down than when it's just cruising unloaded. This is not at all a pleasant ride, and even on this, you know, decently paved country road, it just really does not feel very good. So maybe buy this truck if you want it for work stuff. I probably wouldn't recommend you daily drive this. It's also just this big, huge gas guzzling rig. It's fun, but it's really restricted from the factory. The engine doesn't sound loud. The exhaust doesn't sound loud. And you're dealing with all the factors that come with driving a big truck. I do wish that this engine was offered in the 1500 regular cab Silverados. I think that would be killer. But the 5.3 in the long bed or the Turbo Max 2.7 in the shorter bed, those trucks definitely ride better than this, and they are faster, but their payload is about half of what this is. This will be fun. Let's take a corner and get up to speed. Ooh, this is such a big rig. Partial throttle though. Smooth torque, really good power delivery. That 6.6 liter engine has torque basically everywhere. It's just that a lot of it's being absorbed by the mass of this vehicle. And this with a 31.5-inch tire really isn't even losing a lot of power to rotational mass. It's not like you have some 35-inch tires and you're lifted 6 extra inches. While this does have 10.2 inches of ground clearance, that is a lot more than, you know, the average truck that's not a heavy duty. But the tires aren't really slowing you down. If you did want to fill out the wheel wells a little bit more, just know that this is going to be a little bit slower. But also I am at altitude. This is down on power a little bit. But holy cow, do I like this powertrain. Do I especially like the 6.6 liter huge displacement pushrod V8 engine that has so many options, so much potential. If you are someone who ever wanted this powertrain, whether in this truck or in one of the 2500 Express vans or anything like that, to modify it, to have some fun, or eventually to find one of these trucks in a junkyard in 10 years from now and pull the engine for cheap and put that in your project car, that'd be really cool. And while I'm just about to park to finish, a few last thoughts on this vehicle. I do want to mention, this drives like a truck. So you need to give yourself a lot of time to slow down, especially if you are towing or hauling, because the brakes are very squishy. You being so high up, you are a little bit distorted from, you know, reality. Your normal perception might be off if you aren't used to driving something this big, because you are going faster than you think, faster than you feel when you are this high off the ground. You don't feel everything in the road other than all the bumps and everything from the suspension of this vehicle. So keep in mind, it is going to take a little bit of time to get used to. It's also going to take a little bit of time to figure out where your blind spots are, because as I mentioned, even though the windows are big and you can see far away from you, you still are going to have some trouble figuring out what's close by. You don't want to run over a pet, you don't want to run over a child or anything at all in a vehicle like this, and where I can't see for probably at least 20 feet in front of the hood. That is pretty concerning when you drive a big vehicle like this. But my biggest concern, probably just getting around corners, is the brakes. The brakes feel really squishy. There is a tiny bit of nosedive. It's really not too bad though, but the brakes are misleading and I need to give myself a lot more space than I regularly would if I'm used to driving another car. And even accelerating while managing some of these bumps in the road, I am just so amazed at how unsettled this vehicle feels. Again, I haven't driven it fully loaded. I'm sure it feels a lot more buttoned down at that, but right now it is very much all over the place. So overall, my final thoughts of the 2025 2500 HD gas-powered Silverado is it's just kind of a neat truck. Personally, I love regular cab short bed Silverados. I love old school ones that have pushrod simple V8 engines without active fuel management, without deactivation of the cylinders. All those things that have been proven at this point to not be long-term reliable in every single situation. This does feel like a heavy-duty truck. Personally, I was expecting or hoping that it would feel a little bit lighter on its feet. But I don't do heavy-duty truck stuff. I do light-duty and mid-sized truck stuff. So I do think that this powertrain is awesome, but this truck feels very well suited to its intended purpose, which is being a work vehicle, being a vehicle made to make you money, to help you do your job. And I think this one at $45,000 is still a little bit more expensive than I was hoping for. Maybe $40,000 would be more of a steal of a deal. But honestly, this feels like a very solid, very competent work truck. It just, you need to know its limits. It's not perfect everything. It's not a grocery getter. This is a truck meant for doing stuff that only big trucks can do. But it is a regular cab, so it looks better. It's fun. And I like driving it for today. So anyways, guys, I'm just rambling on. If you got anything out of this video, these quick thoughts, this quick review, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care. And until next time, see ya.